Most people think failure comes from one big event, one dramatic collapse. But more often than not, it comes quietly. It comes from the little things we let slide. The missed appointment, the skipped workout, the excuse. We tell ourselves that it's no big deal. Those are the things that set the course. Not the big blow up, but the daily decision to say that it doesn't matter this time. But here's the truth I discovered. Every time you let something slide, you've already made a decision. You might not call it a decision, but it is one. You've decided to give up control. You've handed the steering wheel of your future over to neglect, and neglect has a way of driving you places you don't want to go. See, life is always asking a question. Who's deciding for you? Is it you, with discipline and intention? Or is it the little compromises, the I'll get to it tomorrow, the it's not that important? Those phrases sound harmless in the moment, but repeated over time, they make all the difference. I've met men who never understood why their businesses failed, why their health crumbled, why their families grew distant. And when you look closely, it was never one catastrophe. It was a trail of small things they allowed to slide. Mr. Shove told me years ago, if you don't decide, neglect will. That stayed with me. It means you don't get to escape choice. You either make it or it gets made for you. Discipline is a choice. Excuses are also a choice, just a disguised one. And whichever one you repeat becomes the author of your story. So the phrase is simple. If you let it slide, you let it decide. And that decision might not look like much today, but it adds up tomorrow, and the next day, and the next year. The question is, what are you letting slide? It usually starts small. That's the thing people often miss. They think failure happens overnight, or that success is this sudden breakthrough moment. But in truth, both are built the same way, day by day, little by little, choice by choice. When someone ends up broke, it's rarely because of one bad financial decision. It's because they let the little things slide, spending just a little more than they earned, putting off saving, ignoring the debt until it grew too large. When someone's health breaks down, it's usually not one meal, one missed workout, one late night. It's the quiet accumulation of small neglects. Sugar here, sleep lost there, exercise skipped one too many times. When a relationship falls apart, it's rarely one fight that ends it. It's the repeated neglect of kindness, of listening, of showing up. See, small choices don't stay small. They multiply. They gather interest. Just like money compounds when you invest it, neglect compounds when you allow it. You think you're getting away with it, but every time you let something slide, you've cast a vote for the kind of life you'll eventually have. And those votes add up. I remember watching someone lose their career, not because they lacked talent, but because they allowed lateness and poor preparation to become a pattern. At first, it seemed harmless. 5 minutes late to a meeting, no big deal. Then it became 10 minutes. Then it was showing up without the right notes. Then it was missed deadlines. No one fired him the first time, but over time, the reputation built. He's unreliable. That single slide, multiplied, decided his future. And on the other side, I've seen the reverse. A man I knew made a habit of sending one thank you note every day. Not a long one, not a fancy one. Just a few sincere lines of gratitude. At first, it seemed small, almost insignificant. But over years, that habit built him a network of goodwill so deep that when he needed help, people lined up to support him. A small habit compounded into extraordinary opportunity. That's the truth about small choices. They never stay small. They're like seeds. You may not notice them today, but given time, they either grow into weeds or into fruit. And the ones you allow to slide, those are the ones that end up deciding for you. Neglect is one of those quiet forces that doesn't show up with alarms or announcements, but it is always at work. Every time you say, I'll get to it tomorrow, or it's not a big deal this time, something is decided for you. It may not feel like a choice, but it is. You either take control or control slips away. Think of it like this. Every seed left unplanted is still a decision. Every field left untended is still shaping your harvest. Neglect doesn't stay neutral. It grows into something, just like discipline grows into something. The difference is one grows weeds, the other grows crops. And here's how Mr. Shove explained it to me. All those years ago, neglect accumulates. You don't always see the damage right away. Skip one day and nothing changes. Skip a week, and maybe still nothing looks different. But let it go long enough, and suddenly the damage is undeniable. By the time you see it, the cost is already heavy. You see, when you let something slide, you are not just avoiding discomfort. You are handing the steering wheel of your life over to chance. You're saying, I won't decide. I'll let neglect decide. And neglect always makes the same choice. It chooses decline. It chooses erosion. It chooses weakness. That's why the small things matter so much. A late bill, a broken promise, a workout missed, an opportunity passed by. All of them might seem small in the moment, but stack them together, and suddenly your life is being built on neglect rather than discipline. And here's the truth. If you let it slide, you let it decide. Now you might ask, what's the alternative? The alternative is to decide before neglect gets the chance. The alternative is to take even the smallest action seriously. Because if you treat the little things with care, the big things begin to take care of themselves. You know, one of the greatest lessons I ever learned is this. Discipline makes the final decision when you refuse to. Every time you hesitate, every time you avoid a choice, Every time you let something slide, discipline either steps in or it doesn't. And when it doesn't, the price is always paid later. Think about it. How many lives have been shaped not by bold choices, but by quiet neglect? It's rarely the one dramatic mistake that ruins a person. More often, it's the dozen small things left undone. The exercise you skipped, the book you didn't read, the conversation you avoided, the responsibility you postponed. And each time you shrug and say, maybe tomorrow, you've handed the steering wheel of your life over to chance. Now, discipline, that's different. Discipline is decisive. It says no, not tomorrow, today. It says not maybe, definitely. It cuts through excuses, delays, and wishful thinking. And if you don't cultivate that voice inside, you'll end up obeying another voice, the one that whispers, just let it go. It won't matter, but it always matters. I remember telling a young man years ago who struggled with follow-through. The smallest neglect is never just small. He didn't believe me at first. He thought discipline was about the big things, getting the promotion, saving a fortune, finishing a project. But no, it's the little things. The small disciplines compound into strength. The small neglects compound into weakness. See, when you let it slide, you've made a decision without realizing it. You've said no to progress, no to growth, no to building a future. Discipline, on the other hand, is the conscious yes. Yes to growth, yes to momentum, yes to a better life. And what determines whether tomorrow looks better than today is how many of those yeses you accumulate. So when I say discipline is the decider, that's exactly what I mean. It decides whether you're building or decaying, whether you're moving forward or drifting back, whether your future is something you shaped or something you stumbled into. The decision is always being made, even when you don't make it. The only question is, who's deciding, discipline or neglect? You skip one workout, not a big deal. You miss one day of reading. Who notices? You put off one important phone call, and it seems harmless. But here's the truth. Those small neglects don't stay small. They stack up. They compound. And over time, they carve out a completely different result than you intended. See, neglect has a silent momentum. One small, I'll do it tomorrow, turns into a week. A week turns into a month. Before you know it, you've built the habit of letting things slide. And once it's a habit, it becomes the pattern that decides your life. Remember this, discipline compounds, but so does neglect. Both are building your future, just in opposite directions. Think of it like debt. If you leave a small balance unpaid, the interest doesn't just add, it multiplies. That's how neglect works. Skip the gym today and you don't notice. Skip for 6 months and now you've lost your energy. Ignore a small problem at work today and it feels fine. Ignore it for a year and now it's a crisis. Neglect always compounds quietly in the background until one day the cost is undeniable. Mr. Schoaf would always say, neglect starts as an exception, but ends as a lifestyle. That hit me hard. Because the things we let slide once in a while eventually become the story of how we live. That's why every little choice matters. You either pay the price of discipline now, or you pay the heavier price of neglect later. But either way, you're going to pay. You see, the bottom line is simple. If you let things slide, you've already made a decision. You just didn't say it out loud. You didn't vote for progress, you voted for drift. You didn't choose growth, you chose decline. And the trouble is, decline doesn't announce itself. It shows up quietly day after day until one morning you wake up and wonder how you got so far off course. But the good news is, you can flip that script anytime you want. Every small act of discipline is a vote for the future you want. Every time you choose not to let it slide, you reclaim control. You put yourself back in the driver's seat. You set the terms for your life instead of letting neglect write the contract. So here's the challenge. Don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait until conditions are perfect or until someone comes along to rescue you. Start today. Decide today that nothing important will slide. Decide today that if something matters to your future, it matters enough to act on it now. Because if you let it slide, you let it decide. But if you stand firm in discipline, you get to decide. And that, I promise you, makes all the difference between drifting through life and deliberately building the life you really want.
वीडियो को लाइक एंड चैनल को सब्सक्राइब जरूर से ज़रूर करें। ऐसे वीडियो के लिए हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करें।